Uh, Brian,
Hunter.
how many years in a row have you seen the memes that say the new iPhone is the same as last year's iPhone in one format or another? How many years have you been seeing that for?
Since memes became a thing.
Hmm, I think so too. So, what I would like to talk about here, another controversial topic. Um, Funny memes. I go haha. I see the funny meme about the iPhone 1751 being the same as iPhone number 1750, and I go haha funny meme. It's the same haha. But on a more real note, I don't know if any of you understand how product development works, but obviously the new iPhone is the same as the old one. What are you expecting Apple to do from one year to another? If Apple blew your mind every single year with the new iPhone, it would eventually stop blowing your mind, even if it changed, because they'd have blown your mind so many times. That's how development of products works. How difficult is this concept to understand? Every product that has any kind of yearly release cycle is the same as the last one with some minor updates. Like, I know that Apple is the biggest company in the world and so they're held to a higher standard, but honestly, if you look at the difference between the new iPhone and the old iPhone, it's actually bigger than the difference in most other companies this year product to this year product, right? Like, okay, so Samsung made a folding phone 5 years ago, and they innovated in that space, and 8 people have the Samsung Fold. Congratulations,
It might be 12.
they really innovate. And then Google did theirs this year, and 6 people got that one. Okay, and Microsoft made the Surface Duo, and 4 people bought that one. Okay, congratulations, you guys really innovated in the space. And by the way, I'm excited about foldables.
But the foldable version A and the foldable version B were basically the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, even in the first 3 years of development, like this, the Fold grew and developed
Yeah.
quite a bit. But like this year, the Samsung Flip 5, I think it's the Flip 5 and the Fold 5 that are out now,
Yeah.
are very similar.
Very much the
Very
same as the
similar
last
to
one.
last year's. So congratulations, you got 3 years of
Of
innovation from
innovative.
Samsung, and
Yeah.
now we're back to it's the same thing every single year again.
Yeah.
Like, and
I think other products are in the same boat. Like
yeah,
cars.
yeah.
Uh,
Can you
like most consumer electronics are in the same boat.
Yeah. Can you
Like
imagine?
the general like point and shoot SLR camera hasn't really changed
Yeah.
in granted they're 70 megapixel versions now or whatever
Yeah, but they just
current is,
but they just bin down to 4K most of the time anyway.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
and can you imagine if like Ford dropped the new version of the F-150, the 2024 model year, and everyone was like, "Boo! It's the same as last year." No, duh, it's
Yeah.
the same as last
It
year's.
has
They
four
m-
wheels. It looks the
Yeah,
same.
they moved to the position of the seatbelt because 3 people died in a horrifying accident with it where the seatbelt didn't work properly, and so they moved the seatbelt to make
Yeah.
it work
They
better. And
changed the engine mount bolts because they sheared off in
yeah, well,
four different crashes.
and because they need to make more money off of people getting their cars repaired, they can't use the same
Right.
parts every year,
Right.
and nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that. Like, they'll literally update the
Like,
actual
what's
design.
The Raptor. The Raptors basically look exactly like the exact same truck.
Yeah, for 10 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
forever.
like car manufacturers will update their car or whatever every 7 years, maybe 5 to 7 years if it's a quick update, and sometimes up to 20 if they're like slow about it. And no one complains that like, oh, the 2024 model year Ford Focus, that doesn't exist anymore, not in America.
Whatever.
But
Ford,
you know what I'm talking
whatever
about.
generic
Yeah.
Ford car you want to talk
Yeah,
about.
whatever is the same, and nobody cares about that. Like, in fact, would you rather have something that's new and slightly better and costs the same amount of money, or would you rather buy the thing that hasn't been updated for 5 years and still costs the same amount of money? Because so many companies do that.
Yep.
Like, how many router manufacturers only update their router fundamentally when the new Wi-Fi standard comes out, and even then you can
Even
still
then.
buy the 6-year-old version for the exact same price that it dropped at, $150 or whatever.
Yep.
Nobody cares about that. But when you get more value out of your iPhone for the new version and it still costs the same, everyone's like, "Oh, it's the same." Oh, it
I think one of my favorite memes about the iPhone that was years ago is the original iPhone was a certain size, and then and then the next version was like
Slightly
slightly
taller.
larger,
Yeah.
slightly taller, and then the next version was like slightly larger than that, and then the memes after that version were like the next version of the iPhone, and it had this like massive screen
Yeah.
iPhone,
Mm-hmm.
where you talk on it, but the microphone is like 6 feet from your mouth.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's like the most disoriented meme ever because increasing the size is actually like a noticeable thing
Yeah.
that most phone companies and other handheld devices, they're looking to maximize the size of the thing,
Yeah.
it with still making it something you can hold,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like the current memes out there that are like, oh, it has a USB-C port or like whatever those
Mm-hmm.
memes are I think less disoriented than that.
Mm-hmm.
Those original like
Yeah.
memes of iPhone being basically the same.
Yeah. But I also think that there's something about those memes as well, where like it's kind of like a people have it both ways at the same time.
Yeah,
Like they only made it bigger and did nothing else. It's the exact same as last year.
right,
What do you mean they only made it bigger and did
right,
nothing else? It's the same. That is a change. That
right.
means they
That
changed
means they
something.
changed several things
Yeah.
inside the phone.
Yeah. And like I admit, like again, I understand. I go haha at the memes too. Like
Sure.
I get it, but what are you expecting? Like what is everyone expecting out of Apple every single year? Because if you can come up with an idea that's good enough for Apple to implement it and it actually impresses people, then how about you go start a phone company and really wow us with your new
Yeah,
innovation,
and
and
see
then
and see.
you release the same phone for 15 years in a row and we'll make fun of you.
Yeah,
Okay? How does
yeah.
that sound?
I'm sure somebody's going to comment on my Apple Watch. Um, I am an Apple user. I have a Mac. I
Mhm.
prefer it. It makes me more functional.
Yeah.
But I'm an ecosystem investor, not a hardware
Mhm.
investor. I bought into the Apple ecosystem when they were doing things that no one else was doing,
Mhm.
and so I've just maintained it because I've that ecosystem has grown
Yeah.
and developed. And I think the people that are focused more on the hardware of the thing are the people that are building these memes.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't make any difference what the hardware is.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Well, and I also need to make this very clear. Like this is not just an in defense of Apple thing. This is every single company. It's
Yeah.
just that the memes are only made about Apple. Like
Right.
Samsung does this, Google does this. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
change something every 3 or 4 years and it'll be a slightly different. But like every phone manufacturer, every consumer electronics manufacturer, dude, can we talk about TVs?
Oh, TVs are the worst.
Oh my
I
gosh.
have like a 10-year-old TV hanging on my wall.
I know.
It still works.
Mhm.
It's recently started to have some problems, and I've started to look at like replacing it with a
Yeah.
newer version.
Yeah.
They don't do anything different.
Mhm.
Like
I
there's nothing really amazing in the new smart TV
I mean, if you
scenario.
upgrade to the OLED, you might see a little bit
Okay,
of a difference.
screen wise,
Yeah,
like my picture's going to be a
but
little clearer, but I would expect that to
but
happen.
but even still, like TVs, like they're releasing a new model every single year. This one
Yeah.
actually, I working at Best Guy,
You can't say that.
Breast Guy, yeah,
Breast
yeah, working at Breast Guy. This bugged me as well because everyone would be like, well, "What's the difference between this year's TV and the last year's TV, bro?" If you think the iPhone has no changes, TVs, dude, like 99.9% of consumers would never be able to tell the difference, even between 2020's OLED screens and 2023's OLED screens.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that if I hand you the iPhone, it would have been 12 or something at the time, and then I hand you the iPhone 15 with a USB-C port, just that USB-C port change, you being able to use the same cable for your laptop and for your phone and for your everything, just that one change is going to make drastically more of a difference in your life than the like difference between the 4K OLED from 2020 and the 4K OLED from 2023. Like and nobody cares. Like nobody gives a single crap when LG releases the exact same OLED TV for 7 years in a row. But when Apple literally fundamentally changes the way that you charge and connect to your phone one year, everyone's like, it's the exact same as last year's. There's no reason to get it. It's completely the exact same. Nothing changed at all. I don't understand, man. I don't get it. I
I
mean,
I
again,
think it's the I think
funny
it's the
memes. It's low hanging fruit.
I think it's the I think it's the they're the largest tech company out there, and
Hmm.
so like it's the it's the concept of Windows is the largest operating system manufacturer out there, so there's obviously going to be more bugs and more problems with Windows than with Mac or with Linux. But even those operating systems have the same bugs, but the target is the big one.
Yeah,
The target is the big manufacturer of the thing that you're
yeah.
talking about.
Hmm.
Like there was I remember years ago that somebody was trying to argue with me about TV manufacturers and how Samsung uh, manufactures TVs that are garbage and because there's tons of more flaws. And then I went digging around, and this was like some argument between LG's TVs being better and Samsung's TVs being garbage. Samsung at the time was manufacturing like 300% more models and types of TVs than other manufacturers. So obviously they're going to have more flaws. They're making more of it.
Yeah,
You're just making more of the thing, so there's going to be more issues.
yeah. This actually brings up another technically disoriented topic that I this is a tough one because everyone does it. Even me who like I think about this often, I'm aware of it. I still do this myself. So like I'm criticizing myself here. But everyone in the entire world likes to get into these like boxes of like, well, which brand of TV is better? Well, which brand of microwave is better? Well, which brand of whatever is better? Computer. And I have terrible news for you. Like I know that that makes it an easy thing to like, oh well, I can just only look at TVs and I can only look at Panasonic uh, microwaves or whatever. But the problem is that every company in the entire world makes stinkers and they make standout greats. It does not matter what company you're buying
Yeah.
from. It matters what the thing is that you're buying. So when you walk into Breast Guy and ask the computer guy, well, which brand of laptop should I get? The brand doesn't matter at all. Like almost at all. Okay, so maybe they've got a design language that like you don't really dig HP's kind of like squared off
Format.
style,
Yeah.
yeah, or whatever, and you really dig the sort of rounded corner edges on some Dell laptop or whatever. But even within manufacturers, they have intentionally different design language for the different products that they make, right? So like HP's cheap ones will look a certain way, and then like HP's expensive ones look completely different. And Dell's cheap ones look a certain way, and Dell's expensive ones look completely different. Like people getting too stuck in the mode of like, well, I had this one and it worked, so this company must be amazing is technically disoriented in and of itself because they make new things every single year. They update stuff. They get rid of the model that was garbage and they put in a model that is going to be a standout. And by you thinking, oh, well, I'm a Samsung person or I'm an LG person or I'm a whatever, like you are cutting yourself off from products that may be just objectively better products because it's easy to put the blinders on and just be like, well, I like the one LG thing I had 15 years ago, so they must be making amazing products. So,
So I think just to build off that, anytime a family member comes to me, and I've been doing this for years, like
yeah.
over the course of the years, people, what's the best computer out there? I need a new computer. What's the best computer?
Mhm.
I generally try and just convert it into a budget conversation. Like,
Mhm.
what's your budget?
Yeah.
Like, if your budget is $800, then you're gonna get a mediocre laptop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Pretty
that's
much standard.
like you're gonna get a laptop that will do word processing and surf the web. If you're gonna spend $2,000 on, you're gonna get one that you're gonna be able to play games on, like, but you're only gonna be able to play games on it for a certain number of years, and then that you won't be able to play games on it
Yeah.
anymore. If you spend a little more here, and I think it works. I think that concept works in most of the industries out there for consumer products and probably non-consumer products too.
Yeah.
Where if you spend a little bit more money, you're going to get some other set of features.
Hmm.
And like, I don't know, I'm not a Samsung phone expert, but there's like grades of phones.
Yeah, they make
There's
the A
they
series, which
Yeah,
are like their mid tier, and then
right.
the
And I think Apple has tried to steer clear of the different grades of phones, although they have put several like cheaper versions out
right.
after they put their main version out or whatever. But I think they generally try and steer clear of it because
Other
they
than
like,
like the SE.
sure, that's what I'm saying. They have done it, but it's, I don't know that they don't do it with every phone they put
Yeah,
out.
yeah. They definitely don't update the SE every year.
And I think it becomes a budget conversation. It's, if you can afford to buy a $3,000 desktop, then you're going to get a good desktop. It's going to be powerful. It's going to play games. It's going to play whatever the current game is.
Right.
It's going to do word processing, all the other things that you want. But if you can't afford that, don't spend the money on it.
Yeah.
And I think phones specifically get more flack for the cost of what you're buying versus the features that you got this year,
Hmm.
because everyone has one.
Yeah.
Like, unless you live off the grid or in a developing country somewhere, you have a handheld device that you're carrying around with you.
Hmm.
And so it's more readily accessible for people. People
Yeah.
only buy laptops every 3 or 5 years. Some people only buy used laptops for the purpose of they don't need it to do anything other than
Right.
check their bank account or like whatever they're doing on that.
Right.
And I just think that if you ratchet it down into a budget comment, I personally do not have $4,000 to buy all the people in my family all brand new phones.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to do that. So
Yeah.
we have to either have cheaper phones or pay for them over time in some sort of a plan format or whatever. And that becomes how we access that feature of our lives. And so if you can boil it back into a budget conversation, then the memes make less sense. Like this thing doesn't have this feature or whatever, or it only got a different charging port or whatever.
Right.
Like, it makes it more accessible of, great, are you going to buy one? Can
Hmm.
you afford to buy one? Do you want to buy one? If not, then
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. People only buy TVs when they throw a shoe at them and they crack, or when they get old and don't work anymore,
True.
right?
True.
So it's not. And then when you buy it, you may have bought a really expensive one last time, and now you're going to buy a less expensive one because you didn't use 90% of the features on the last one. So why spend the money on it?
Yeah.
And there, I think in the phone world, there's less options in that space.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make those decisions of, I didn't use those features in my last phone, because you can't avoid that. But in a thing like a TV, or even in a car, you can avoid, I don't need the upgraded engine, I just drive it to work or whatever.
So this leads into another technically disoriented conversation that is kind of about Macs specifically. Like, I have heard from so many friends, my laptop is just so slow. It's just so bad. I think I want to upgrade to a Mac. And it's like, okay, I understand why you may think that, but let me ask you a question. Was the laptop that is slow currently that you have had, was it used? Was it cheap? Was it secondhand? Was it less than $500? Because guess what? There are nice Windows laptops that will not make you want to switch to a Mac. You just didn't want to fork over the cash for it. And so now you have a negative opinion of Windows laptops in general because you bought the cheap one. And so now you think that you need to get a different thing. It's in that same sort of
Yeah.
technically disoriented, like brand. Oh, I smacked the mic. Like brand
Don't smack the
conversation.
mic.
Yeah, okay. I'll be nice to my mic. But it's in that same like brand loyalty kind of thing. Oh, I bought this one thing, so this whole ecosystem or company or brand or whatever is bad
Right.
because I've had one negative experience with this
Right.
thing, right? Like that in and of itself is technically disoriented too. Like, And I think that there are times when there's a little bit of truth to that thing. Like, yes, in general, iPhones will hold their value a little bit better. They are pretty much guaranteed to get the newest updates for a bit longer than most Android phones. Like there are still some things that ring true. Uh, you know, the Toyota and the Honda are very likely going to be more reliable than the Mercedes, right? Like they're going to
But that,
cost less to
but that's
maintain,
based
right?
on historical data. All of that is based on historical data.
Hmm.
It wasn't that way for iPhones when they first came out,
True,
right?
true.
And it wasn't that way for Toyotas and
Hondas.
Hondas when they first came out. But historically speaking, you can look back and say, I'm getting better value for my money for
Hmm.
this for buying this thing,
Yeah,
right?
but either way, like I mean, even if I'm gonna take it to a car conversation again, like compared to the phone, where like someone's like, oh, my Windows laptop sucks, so I'm gonna get a Mac. Well, did you buy a 15-year-old used Civic that has been beaten up by somebody? Then yeah, you're gonna have a negative experience with Honda, and you're gonna
Right,
want to switch to something, right?
right.
But if you get like a new Civic that's been well taken care of, or a gently used one or whatever, then you're probably going to have a good experience with it. Or if it didn't have the features you wanted, you can always upgrade to what's the upgraded version of the Civic called? They used to have one of these. I think everything's just built off the Civic chassis now, though.
I'm not a car man.
You're not a car man.
You talk about the Type R.
No, that's also built off the Civic. You know how there's the Nissan Sentra and the Nissan Altima, which is like the step up, and there used to be like the Jetta and the Passat and like the Corolla and the Camry. Like most car manufacturers have a duo of like the
Oh,
crap cheap one and the slightly better
I
one.
don't think Honda ever did that with the Civic, did they?
Do they not have a better one?
I
I
don't
thought
think
they
they
did.
did.
Maybe I'm high. Anyways, the point being, I'm not high.
I hope not. You've
The
been at my house for several hours.
I know. The point being, brand loyalty is it's not 100% stupid, but the next time you buy something just because of X brand, challenge your brain a little bit to read some reviews and try and like learn something about something new instead of just like falling into the trap of, well, 10 years ago I bought thing from X company and so it must be still good. Like do some research. Critical thinking.
But I also think that there's certain things, particularly in the area of phones, where if you try, like for most people, for me, it's not so bad. But when other people that I know in my life try and use an Android phone after they've used an Apple for an extended period of time,
It
it's
can be
it's
an
really
adjustment.
meant it's there's a lot of mental gymnastics that have to go into to switching your functional ability to use the device
Hmm.
because it's so different. Like I know people who are like, Samsung's not doing anything great with phones recently. I'm going to try an iPhone or whatever, and then they'll get the iPhone, and after 2 weeks they sell the iPhone and go back to the Android because it just was too much mental gymnastics to switch your daily usage of the thing.
Hmm.
I've personally had the same problem when Apple has dramatically changed the operating
The
system.
OS.
Like there's been several things that they've really like I'm gonna say one, moving the URL bar from the Safari browser from the top to the bottom by default. Like I that blew my I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I had to go switch it back to the top because I hated looking at the browser that way.
Huh.
It was not something that I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So I think that the brand loyalty process is also a functional thing, but I also think that there's
Yeah.
certain things like a phone that you use literally every day,
I think it also
hundreds
depends.
of
I
times.
think it does depend on product category a little bit. Like
Yeah.
phones, maybe you'll notice a bigger difference in brand loyalty than you will with, like, say, a laptop, because you're getting Windows if you get a Dell computer, a Lenovo computer, or an HP computer. And so the actual usage experience, at
Doesn't
least from
matter.
software wise, really is pretty much the same.
Right.
And it's going to vary much more based on model than on brand.
Right.
But then there are things like phone, which are a little bit more. But then there's things like TVs that you won't notice at all, whether
Not
it's
at
an
all.
LG or a Samsung or whatever. Like
Not at all.
literally, like 99.9% of the population, I could show the OLED panel from LG, the like QLED panel from Samsung, the OLED panel from whoever, right? Like all three next to each other. And if there wasn't a logo at the bottom, you would say, "Oh, that one has
but
brighter yellow, and that one has brighter blue."
but
And I don't know who made
but
any of them.
there's only a couple of companies that actually manufacture
The
the
panels,
panels.
yeah, it's true.
Like it's the electronics that run the panel
That make the
that
difference.
make the difference. I think Samsung is one of the companies that actually manufactures
Samsung and LG,
the OLED panel themselves,
yeah,
not just the electronics on it.
Samsung and LG both do.
I used to know this when it came to computer monitors, but there was like a particular brand of monitor that if you bought the monitor, it was several $100s less expensive, and you were basically getting the newer Samsung
the same
panel because it was the same panel.
Mm-hmm. So I actually need to pause for just a second because I need to go get a drink, and then we're gonna do one last rant. But I have one last technically disoriented comment here. Um, People's phones have more or less replaced computers for
Yeah.
most things that you do, and yet if I tell you that this laptop costs $1,000, everyone's like, "Wow, that's that's a pretty nice laptop." But if I tell you that the new iPhone costs $1,000 and that it will do almost everything that you would actually be doing on your laptop, everyone loses their minds.
Yeah.
Like the fact that phones cost the same as laptops, but you're doing everything that you would be doing on your laptop on your phone, and there's this like oh man, $1,000 laptop? Well, that's a decent laptop. $1,000 phone? Holy crap! How dare you
How
rob me
dare you?
blind like
Yeah.
this? What do you mean? They took everything that is in your laptop and shrunk it down to a minuscule size
And put it in your phone.
yeah, and then you spend 4 to 10 hours a day on it, scrolling through TikTok, looking at Facebook, and
Yeah.
checking your bank account and doing all the other things. Why is that so difficult for people? And yeah, everything's expensive. I know. There's the like buy a last year's iPhone for $600, buy the A series Samsung and get the like decent experience for $400 or $500. Get the Pixel 7a instead of the 7 Pro or whatever, and get it for $600 and do that one, right? I know that things are expensive. I understand not everybody has the money for $1,000 thing, but if I show you $1,000 MacBook and it's like, here, you can get this for school or whatever, everyone's like, oh yeah, that's an amazing
great deal.
Yeah. And then I show you the $1,000 iPhone and everyone's like, holy, what? Trying to rob me blind. I don't know.
The thing is, here's what I wish they would do. I wish they would build maybe they have one and I just don't know about it, which is fine. I wish they would build a thing for the phone where you could just put the phone in and it would give you a larger screen and a keyboard.
On Samsung phones, they do.
I know. I wish they would do one for Apple.
I don't know if they're going to do that with the USB-C port. That would be really cool because you can with an iPad. You can do that on an iPad.
So you did right, but Apple wants you to buy the iPad and the phone.
Yeah,
and
yeah, that one's silly.
Like I think it'd be great to have the $1,000 phone, but then be able to just plug it into like a dock and then use it like a laptop.
Yeah, Samsung.
Like most of my job could be handled.
Oh yeah.
If I had like a remote desktop process to some other machine.
Yeah, yeah.
I could definitely do most of my job without having to like have a laptop too.
Well, Brian, I have this crazy product for you. What if I told you that the power of a laptop was built into something you could wear on your face and you could take anywhere?
What?
Sorry, that's a little reference back to our
Do I
Vision
have
Pro
to look
conversation.
like a jackass wearing it?
Yes.
Oh, well then.
I was out in public.
Sign me up twice.
I sent you the picture of the guy doing VR out in public the other day.
Just
I was
off
like,
in the corner.
it's begun
With the strollers, I might add.
yeah, over by the
you
strollers.
saw that in the background?
Oh, I was there. Yeah.
Doing VR over by the strollers.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
It's too much for me.
Anyways, we'll probably revisit some of these rants. In fact, this rant comes up in my brain every single year when Apple releases a new thing and everyone complains about it and makes memes about it. And you know what? I'm going to say one thing before I close this one out. I actually don't think that many people are that frustrated about the new iPhone being similar to last year's iPhone. I think that it's just a bunch of people who see the low-hanging fruit on Reddit and decide to make the meme that's been made. Oh, crazy. They're making the exact same meme over and over again. Like Apple is making the same phone over and over again.
Yeah.
And they're just farming karma. So there's probably not that many people that are actually that in
Farming
flames about it.
karma.
It's probably
I
just
think they're farming views is what they're farming.
Reddit karma views. It's all the same. But anyways, so